This is a new video to explain a product that we've just come up with called the Pen Wizard Transformer. And the purpose of that is to allow you to do parts that are different shapes than pens, bigger diameter and shorter and so on. In order to do that, we're going to make a duck call. Starting right from scratch, we're going to get right into it and cut out the parts. Okay, now we're going to install an IX collet. This is a 5/8, which is the size of the hole that I just drilled. And we'll put that in there. And then I'll use my Allen wrench to tighten it up, like so. Now it's good and tight. And I'll take it over to the lathe and we'll turn our shape. With my IX collet installed in the blank, I've got two ways to mount it in the lathe. Most people will have a standard drill chuck like this, and of course I can put the drill chuck in the lathe. This is a number 2 Morse taper, and then I can just stick the collet chuck in there, IX collet in there, and tighten it up, and that will hold it in the lathe very nicely. Another way that you can do, which is takes up a little less space and is a little smoother, is to use one of our collet chucks. And for that, I have a collet, which is 1/2 inch, which is the size of this shank right here. And I can take and mount that in my collet chuck, and that's how you get them in there. And I'll put that on there like that. And then I will put this in the lathe, and we can turn it. Okay, we'll take our collet chuck and screw it onto the lathe. This is a mini jet here, and it has a 1'8" spindle on it, and that's what this collet chuck is set up to match. Then I can take the IX collet with the part on it and screw that right in there, and take one of our handy dandy spanner wrenches and tighten that up. That's nice and tight. We're going to put our fancy little brass ring on here because we're going to use it to gauge how deep to make that first cut over there. fits just about right. With, with a little crazy glue in there, it'll be perfect. Not quite deep enough though, so I'm going to take just a hair more off the edge. But first, I'm going to make the whole thing round. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Now, I can go ahead and turn the rest of it. Okay, now to finish it up, this end, I'm going to turn it around, and which is easy to do when you're using your a collet like this. Turn this around. Now sometimes your collet will stick up in there because the brass cone that pulls down in there gets stuck, and all you have to do to loosen it up is just take that and tap it like that and it'll pop right off. Now I'm going to take the the brass ring off. Okay, we turn this around. Tighten it up. It doesn't have to be very tight. Now we can work on this mouthpiece end a little bit. Now we'll do a little sanding. I'm using 220 here. Okay, that's pretty good. I'll just I won't go any further than 220 at this point. Now, I've got a little rough spot there. I'm going to work on that a little. But because I have it in a collet chuck with the IX collet, I can pull this back out of the way and still work on it out here without the tailstock in the way. Okay, now we're ready for the pen wizard, and that's where we'll go next. Well, now here's the pen wizard, and it's been changed somewhat, and I'm going to tell you what the differences are. First of all, we've taken some parts out of the pen wizard transformer here. This one. And this one is what's going to hold our duck call with the IX collet in it. In order to do that, we have to take the standard part that comes with that you will get with the pen wizard that holds the pen. Now what we're going to do, or what I've already done, is taken these 3 screws out here and mounted this part onto this this unit here. And I've got one already set up here for you. And there it is right there. The 3 screws are going in there. And then this will slide right on there and snap into the index, and it'll be ready to go. Now we take the the duck call that we made. We don't even take it off the IX collet. We just put it right on there, and then put the whole thing, IX collet, into this, and tighten it up with these 2 little brass screws, like that. Then that goes on here like this. Now the next problem is we got a big long distance between here and here to take up, because we've got to have a tailstock. And the simple way to do that, and is what I've done here, is I've taken a piece of 5/8 dowel and I've drilled a center hole in one end, and I just slide that in there and put that in, and then tighten up my tail center screw like so, and lock that in. Now everything is nice and solid, and we can work on it. Now we've got a new depth guide. There's a depth guide, of course, that comes with the Pen Wizard, but it's different from this one. This one here is smaller on the bottom, so it'll get down into the grooves and follow the curves better. Unfortunately, it only works on the Dremel tool, which is what I have here. And the reason that is because the Dremel tool is made with a little recess up inside the plastic housing here. And if you take this 1/2-inch brass tube with the nose on it, you can just stick it right up in that recess, like that, and you can move it around. And I've got a small, it was 1/16, I think, ball end cutter in there. And you see it sticking way out, which is way too far. So I'm going to pull this down a little bit until I get just a little bit of it hanging out the bottom. You can probably hardly see it at all on the video, but there is enough out there to make a difference. Okay, now when that's done, you can take and tighten up your Pen Wizard, or your Dremel tool, in the Pen Wizard mounting bracket here, and that locks it in place. We can set this up so that our stop collars are in the right place, and I can see that one is not in the right place, so I'll take my Allen wrench here and loosen this up. And we'll slide this on forward to where it wants to be, which is right. We want to start right on the edge of that part right there of the threader. And then I'll just slide the stop collar up there so that it's locked in place and it won't go any further to the right than that. I've got to lock that in nicely. Okay, now we've got to do the other end. So I'll crank it back the other way until it's just about where it wants to be. Right there. And then I'll set the other stop collar on this side. Now I'm doing 12 cuts for this part, and one, so that means I move it 2 holes, because there are 24 holes in here. And then ready to make another one. Move it back. Make another 2 clicks, and make another one. And this is the last one. Okay, now we've made 12 cuts, and I think that's about enough. And we'll take this out of here. And the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to sand it to clean out those cuts. All right, I'm going to take this 5/8 collet out of here and put in a 1/4 inch collet, which I have down here. Put the 1/4 inch collet in the nut and screw that in. And now I'm going to use one of these little sanding devices. They only appeared a few years ago. They're relatively new on the market, but they're awfully handy, and I use them for a number of things. So I'm going to put that in there and tighten it up just a little bit. That's enough. Now, I can sand those grooves out pretty nicely. I'll go the other way too to make sure that the edges are not too sharp. So now we have a nice spiral pattern all the way around our duck call. And in order to make it just a little bit nicer before I put some finish on, I'm going to sand the whole thing again and go to some finer paper. I think I'll go down to about 320. So put my 5/8 collet back in. Like so. And just a little bit of finishing with the 220 in order to get down into the coves. I've made a little tapered dowel that allows me to get into those places like that. Now I'll go to some finer paper here. There's some 320. Okay. Now, a lot of times you might want to sand with the grain instead of cross grain like we do when you're turning, and that gets some of those burrs off. Now, at this point, after I've got it all, virtually all done, I can put some finish on it. Everybody uses different kinds of finishes. CA is certainly popular, and I use a wipe-on poly most of the time. Okay, I'm going to take that out of there, and we'll take the IX collet out of it. And at this point, just to show what can be done, we'll go over to the buffer and we'll just buff this raw wood and show what it could look like when it's finished. So instead of putting a finish on this one, just for which I normally would do because the finish is going to protect the wood better than just the buff. But buffing it alone will give it a very nice appearance, and I'm going to do that just to show how that works. Of course, this is the world famous Beal wood buff here, the thing that's made me rich, and as you can see, it works very nicely just on bare wood that's been sanded to 320. So that it gets down into the groove just a little bit. Now we'll do this part. With the edge of the wheel, we'll get down into the toe. Okay, that's the triplet compound. Now I'm going to go over to the wax wheel and we'll put just a little bit of carnauba wax on the, you don't need very much of that. And then we'll finish it up with the wax. Now we have a nice little finished and decorated duck call. I put my brass ring on there, like that, and I can put the duck call part in there, like that, and there we have it. I'm going to show you now a new part for the Pen Wizard transformer that I think is going to be real useful for a lot of things. This is a long tail setter, and you'll take the original one out and stick this one in. We use the same nut to tighten it up with, and with this one what you can do is make little devices like this. This is a shaving brush. Well, the shaving brush is a nice product. Problem is it doesn't have a hole all the way through, so you can't put a dowel through it or anything else. You can't mount it on a mandrel. What you can do, however, is put it on one of our internal expanding collets like this and mount that into the Pen Wizard just like you would, like we did on the duck call. And then we can take this and screw it right on through there, and I will go ahead and screw this on in there. I would of course turn this a little bit longer than the finished product that we showed, so that there'll be a point where this point can come in and engage this end of the brush handle. And at that point, which would be about here, you can lock all this in and it will be nice and solid, and you can go ahead and decorate your shaving brush handle. So that's a whole new set of parts that we've added to the Pen Wizard transformer, and I think it'll make it a lot more useful than it was in the past.